Welcome back to the Pair Program. I'm your host, Tim Winkler, joined by my co-host, Mike Gruen. Mike, today is National Dog Day, so I wanted to kick things off with a little shout out to two very important family members in my life. First, Basil, a 5-year-old Swiss Mountain Dog. She's been with us for almost as long as we've been recording this podcast. And then second would be Griffin, who's previous dog, best bud. We lost him way too soon. But my wife had this beautiful regal portrait put together and painted of Griffin, because he was just a very stoic dog, if you will. But we love our dogs in this family. And so to all the dog lovers out there, give your pups a few extra treats today on behalf of the Pair Program. Mike, did you have a dog growing up? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, we had lots. I grew up in a rural area. We had, basically on a horse farm, so we had lots of dogs. Never more than, I think, 3 at any one time. But loved dogs. Loved going for walks in the woods with them. Bear, and you could tell who named them based on. So my dad named them like Bear and Coco, and my mom gave them human names, so Joy, Abby. So you can always tell which dog was sort of with which person.
That's great. Jeff, Greg, you guys got dogs?
Absolutely. Two German Shepherds.
Give them a shout out. What are the names?
Evie and Duckling. And Duckling has a story behind him because he was a kicked out of the litter runt that was bottle fed. And so the breeder said he was the luckiest duckling she's ever had. So we just kept the name.
Nice.
That's awesome. Jeff, what about yourself?
Got a dog, Chili, Chili.
Very nice.
He's a mix, English Shepherd, some Wiener, a whole bunch of different things. Great dog, though.
Love it.
Beautiful.
All right. Yeah. Well, happy National Dog Day to all the dog lovers out there. Let's transition into a little overview of today's episode. So today we're going to be talking about scaling secure space systems and what it takes to deliver critical satellite hardware fast at scale without cutting corners. So we're going to be highlighting a pretty unique partnership between two companies at the heart of this. Innoflight, a leader in cybersecure, low size, weight, and power, also known as SWAP avionics for space and defense, and Verigon, a trusted contract manufacturing partner that's helping them build, test, and deliver full satellite-ready systems. So this episode should tell a story of scale, of trust between two partners. We'll dive into security and what it means to build mission-critical hardware together. So to tackle this conversation, we've got two great guests. Our first guest, we've got Jeff Janicik, the chairman and founder of Innoflight. Jeff is a space industry trailblazer with over 3 decades of experience, including 33 years with the U.S. Air Force, helped pioneer unmanned X vehicles, played a key role in standing up the U.S. Space Force and founding Innoflight over 20 years ago. Now leading a non-traditional defense contractor that's delivering secure electronics for space missions. So Jeff, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me here.
For sure. And then alongside Jeff, we've got Greg Davis. Greg's the vice president of sales at Verigon. He leads Verigon's business development and has played a key role in helping to scale the company's manufacturing footprint to support major programs for the Space Development Agency. Greg, appreciate you joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, Tim. Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Now, before we dive in, I'd like to kick things off with a fun segment that we call Pair Me Up. Here's where we'll go around the room and just spitball 2 things that go together. So, Mike, you always lead us off. What do you got for us?
Based on recent events, as usual, we're going with college dorm rooms and hot pots. So we just brought my oldest to college, freshman orientation, all that, and moving them in. And of course, had to have the hot pot. That nothing's changed. It's still the one thing that's changed is now they have a microwave in their room. I guess when I was in college, we didn't have that, but certainly the hot pot is a key ingredient of the dorm room.
I thought you said Hot Pockets, and I was like, that's
No.
good.
No. I mean, probably, but no, we're going hot pot, just hot pot.
I'm sure Hot Pockets will make their way into that dorm room at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you have the microwave in the room, of course, Hot Pockets are going to follow shortly.
That's right. That's awesome. What year? What year is he? Freshman? Oh man.
Yep. Yeah.
Is he the last one out, or do you have another that's
first one out?
First one out. Okay. Yep. Man, what an exciting time. Where is he going?
Towson University. So not too far, but far enough.
No Maryland shout out. Yeah. Good stuff. All right, I'll jump in. I'm going to go with SkyTrack launch monitors and user error. This one's a little obscure, but follow me on this. This past weekend, I hosted a bunch of my buddies in my garage for our fantasy football draft, and I had converted my garage, a few years ago to a golf simulator space. And I got a bunch of friends who play golf regularly, and so we're in there kind of playing a virtual round. And I'll just say that they weren't very dialed in for most of their chipping and their putting. It was constantly them, putting the blame on the launch monitor, saying, "Oh, it's just not that accurate. There's no way I left the putt that short, or there's no way that chip was over the green," so on and so on. And so eventually, there just becomes a point where I had to say, it's. This technology, maybe it's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty precise. So I had to just continue to remind these guys that it was probably a user error at some point tied to this end result of a bulk of these poor shots. But that's going to be my pairing. I'm going to go with the SkyTrack launch monitor and user error. So I'm sure, Greg, I think you and I talked a little bit about some launch monitors. So we'll have to riff on that maybe after the show at some point. Let's pass it over to our guest, Jeff. A quick intro and your pairing.
Yeah, so Jeff Janicik, chair and founder of Innoflight. My pairing, you threw a little bit of a curveball by telling me it's National Dog Day, because I might have gone with dogs and cats, because I have one dog and one cat, Chili and Howie, and so they're definitely a great pair. And that's a rare thing, right? Dogs, cats getting on.
That's right.
But my pairing is you said yours was a little bit obscure. Mine is not obscure, but it is my it's when you said pairing, this is my pairing. It's beer and pizza. I do not have pizza for breakfast. When I have pizza, it's a holy grail meal, and it is with a beer. So I want to have pizza in the middle of the day for some reason, because I don't want to drink beer. So I got to have them together. And I love beer. I'm a beer connoisseur. So it's always I got to pick my beer out. The pizza, I'll eat just about anything, because I just love pizza. But yeah, that's my pairing.
Man, that's a classic, timeless pairing right there. I love it.
Yeah, that is.
I got to ask though, because that pizza, it gets to a point where it's pretty filling. Are you going with a stout? I mean, what kind of beer are you drinking with that pizza?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I do enjoy stouts, but I drink them typically alone as more of a dessert beer. So a little bit more on the sweeter side than Guinness. And then with pizza, they don't pair well. With spicy food, sometimes I'll do a stout, but most time pizza, it's ales, pale ales, IPAs. Those are my favorite beers.
Yeah, a little bit lighter.
Yes.
I hear you. Good stuff. Awesome pairing. Thanks again for joining us. Greg, quick intro and your pairing.
I'm Greg Davis, VP of Sales at Verigon, and my pairing is family and food. And the reason I chose those two is, as I shared with you earlier, my wife and I just moved to Scottsdale, and our kids are here and their kids. So we've kind of, as close as I can get it to being a absolute requirement, is every Sunday, the entire family and friends and their friends. So come to our house to eat. My wife's Italian, so we have no end of food. Everybody's welcome. And I have selfish motives for that, because that's the most opportune time to find out where everybody's at, what's going on, what's good, what's bad, and kind of pass on some wisdom, get some wisdom, and send everybody off on the new week in a good full belly and some good stories.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a great tradition. What is this like do you have multiple courses you're rolling out? Is there always somebody like bringing a dessert? Like how is the like a potluck style, or is it you all owning most of the meal?
We pretty much own most of the meal, but to tie on to what Jeff had said, my sons-in-law and I are quite into the beers. So somebody will bring some unique beers, and invariably somebody will bring a additional dessert. But my wife prides herself on nobody needs to bring anything. We got plenty of it. So she ends up sending more home usually than what's eaten.
Well, my wife's a big baker, so I'll book a ticket. Scottsdale, you said, right?
Trackman will be in next week.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. We got a full night ahead of us. Next Sunday, we'll be there. Let us know what time dinner starts.
Perfect.
Good stuff. All right. Good pairings all around. Let's shift into the heart of today's conversation. So today we're going to cover three kind of big themes. One, how Innoflight and Verigon scaled secure space manufacturing, how this partnership has also helped kind of unlock major growth for both companies, and why building cybersecurity into the hardware, not bolting it on later, is a critical piece for space missions today. So let's dive in. Jeff, I want to start with you. Innoflight has grown quite well over the recent years. From our discovery call that you mentioned, you all were delivering 150 plus units per month. With full systems going to major primes. Why don't you begin by giving our listeners a quick overview on the technology that Innoflight's delivering, and also expand on the capabilities of the proliferated warfighter space architecture?
Yeah, sure. So our focus is really in the processing element of a satellite system. So always leaning towards being more innovative and advanced in that area. So I hate to be trite, but smart systems, right? I mean, satellite systems, satellites in general, space systems tend to be behind technology a lot because, once you get something into space, the amount of time it takes to get there, and then you prove that it works. Most customers, most primes, folks that are putting these systems up are hesitant, reticent to bring new technology on rapidly because the fear of failure. So we kind of, with our electronics, we wanted to get out there and find right away, leading forward to smarter systems, adapting commercial electronics, commercial protocols, adapting modern computer based methods and technologies that we could bring into satellites, and then make them more advanced both on the platform and over the communications link. So that's really how we started out of the gate, and that's kind of what's intrinsic to what we design. So we do leverage commercial parts. We qualify them for space. That there's a long process that goes along with that, including the selection and how you test them, and the heritage behind them, and just sharing data, and then mitigating their effects that they might happen. But if the user doesn't see it, or you can keep the uptime of the satellite, or the uptime of the processor, the computer working, the greatest part of the time, close to 99% or 99.99%, however you want to look at it. That's what we do with our systems. And then the fact that we adapt these commercial parts, we can make them very small. We can hit lower cost targets, and that's very advantageous to space. Lower mass, lower size is going to equate, for the most part, to lower cost. And then the big thing about lower cost is, with smaller size, is a smaller launch cost. So this is leading to that all of this is kind of a good foundational piece when you talk about proliferated warfighting space architecture, because that is about resiliency gained through numbers, and not waiting around to get new technology in space, rapidly refreshing, having a number of nodes. If one or two go down, that you're back up and operate, or you can go through a different path, or you can launch again and introduce new technology. So we started out of the gate that way, 20 some years ago, and took a while to build up to get to that point. just we didn't take rounds of funding. So it's all a little bit of seed funding here from the government, here and there, different contracts we were awarded. We were able to keep that path of that vision. And as this proliferated warfighting space architecture, really this rise of small satellites, I kind of look at it like more globally for, instead of saying a warfighting type of architecture, resiliency in space is gained a lot by small satellites. That's over the last 5, 7, 8 years, you've just seen that take off with a lot of the new space companies, not just the DoD, international, commercial, kind of following that same model. And we have a lot of that right technology, and it's leading to higher volumes, getting to the numbers that you're talking about.
So with I think you touched on it. Is the length of the mission also shorter? So that's like, because it's lighter, cheaper, and also therefore cheaper to get into space. The length, like, because I know I have a lot of friends that worked at NASA Goddard, and like some of those missions are very, very long missions, and so they want systems that are going to last a long time. That they're therefore your failure, all of the stuff that goes into like how long this has to last, and your risk for failure. So is your mission length also shorter because you have a lot of smaller ones and it's easier to get up there?
That's exactly it. That's a great point on the fact that you can launch new technology quicker. That's a big part of the schedule, get it there. More launch vehicles being available, just driving down the price, especially the LEO. The costs kind of go up as you go up to the geosynchronous orbits, but even with just having more launch vendors being able to do that, it's driving down costs. SpaceX was a big part of that, and how they set out to really drive down launch costs too. The rest kind of followed. So that's certainly a big part of it, that allows the model I talked about with, commercial technology to fit in, and it goes shorter life. Now, something that a lot of people may not know, some of your listeners may not know as well, is that, that we're finding that these systems last longer than the design life. So, you get this 3 to 5 year life, and then everyone's really risk averse. And it's like, oh, well, it just needs to last 3 years. So you're barely going to make it. We'll accept that. You get these, the old guard, you like to call them like, oh, that, you're using what part? And it uses what kind of technology? Wow. Okay. What are the test results? So, well, we don't have time. We're not going to test it. We're going to try, we're going to kind of take a little bit of risk. And then we're finding some of these systems working a lot better and longer. And that's just, I think that's happened over time. And I started the industry a while ago, and you've got a benefit of commercial parts like parts that go into cell phones are actually more radiation hardened today than they were when cell phones started coming about in the 90s. And there was no requirement to do that. They just did. That's just technology. And they just are. And I mean, there's proof of it. So everybody said, they must be looking for no, they're not looking for the space market. They're better at radiation tolerance than they were then. It's just improvements in technology and what they do, and maybe designing it for better vibration, harder vibration environments, and worst case thermal environments probably does have a side effect of giving you that additional radiation tolerance, which is that's the one environment that you got to be really careful for in space.
So with Innoflight, you're smaller to mid-sized business, I guess, just from maybe from a headcount perspective. What's the size of the company?
We're about 200 employees.
And so talk me through, what were some of these key decisions, or I guess maybe like inflection points where you decided you were going to need a partner to satisfy some of the demands of, your customers, like the Space Development Agency?
Oh yeah. So, we started, a big buy for us was somebody building 2 spares, 1 and 2 spare boxes. When I say boxes, like processor, radio, crypto boxes, the things that we sell, we provide to this satellite manufacturers and integrators. Couple spares, and they needed 3, 2 flights, 1 for that was a big order. And now the big orders are more around, we're doubling up on, it's not just, it's 60 to 100 in one order of one particular product. That makes you think a lot differently. And it was a little bit of an inflection point too. So you're right, with this PWSA, the proliferated warfighting space architecture, and this approach of more in volumes and resiliency. We had always realized that we could make more money. We could have greater margins if we were teaming with contract manufacturers, working with contract manufacturers who could do turnkey solutions for us, and not just one piece of, it's just building the printed wiring board or just assembling the electronics and we have to do all the kitting. There's a whole part of that our contract manufacturer, like Verigon, our leading one, does for us. And the more we can put into that as a part of our whole process, we know that we're able to have a better cost point and be more efficient. And there's a lot of other things gained. So, we've been developing the relationships over time as a company, but I think, we kind of got to a point, that inflection point where it's like, if we don't do this, we've got to change something because we're probably not going to stay as price competitive, and we're going to be drawing out our customer schedules, which, by the way, shrunk in recent times as well. They want things quicker.
Yeah, quicker. Yeah. So that was kind of where, thinking through a partnership made sense. And so I want to kick it over to Greg and just kind of get your perspective on this. You guys have been on this journey before, Innoflight got their work with, let's just say SDA. You walk us through a little bit more on like how the partnership evolved from your end, because, from our conversation, you guys were not really dialed into too much into this industry or this vertical. How did the partnership kind of come about, and how did you all justify it to make sense to go in to, start scaling from, just like you mentioned, like just from PCB assemblies to full box builds?
Yeah. So the history of Verigon, we've been around since 1980, and we've always kind of been in the mission critical, high reliability arena, if you will. And it had historically been focused on the energy, oil and gas exploration world, which is very tight from a quality perspective. So our pedigree is to be very tight on the quality and the processes. So when we first started talking to Innoflight, I think it was 2017, 2018. And at that point, I think that Innoflight hadn't evolved to where what Jeff explained right there. Innoflight was looking for somebody to build printed circuit boards. And we started building printed circuit boards for Innoflight 2018. And very quickly, as they started coming and seeing our capabilities and some of the ancillary features, of test and conformal coding and, the supply chain capabilities, it just was a very logical next step to say, okay, as Innoflight is growing, they would have had to make the decision to add CapEx or space or something on their end to if they were going to continue to build that. And we had that internally. So it was a really nice evolution. And to be honest, the high volume in space is low volume in every other from a contract manufacturing perspective. So it was a really good fit because it's medium volume at best, but it is it's bulky from the standpoint of all the different things you can do to support that business. You're not just buying some components and assembling printed circuit boards and shipping them out. We started adding test, board level test, functional test, burn in, and then it became, well, now you can get the metal and basically build this CubeSat for us. And that's kind of how it's evolved.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to dive deeper into this idea of, partnerships to propel growth through manufacturing specifically. Jeff, this is something that you and I riffed on quite a bit in our discovery call, because we're seeing it across the board in every domain right now, domestically in the US, right? Everything from, drones to unmanned surface vessels to space tech. Talk to me a little bit about, what goes into a trusted, manufacturing partnership in this industry? What is it that you're looking for when you're selecting a partner? What kind of knowledge they need to know, kind of walking into this relationship, and what kind of stood out with Verigon? Obviously, you all have been working together for some time that eventually evolved into Scalable. Let's maybe talk through like a new relationship that's built, and what a founder might be looking for in a manufacturing partner.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really is around elements of quality manufacturing. So as you rise in that producing volume, I think there's complexities around, what's more in what, Greg made a good point that space mass manufacturing isn't a lot of numbers, but it does have, there's a lot of terms, there are things that under the quality realm in terms of an electronics, board box going into space. And so, we have the very detailed, what comes, not just, it's very detailed in terms of what's being asked for from a lot of our customers. They want proof of this. You want, some of the things you want to be able to prove as a company that you have that kind of capability, where it's like, AS9100 being qualified. All of that really falls in through the entire build of the system, and your contract manufacturer is a big, if not biggest part of that. And so they're in that whole process. So you're establishing a trust chain through that process that involves, a different company. So how we show that now to our customers and how we can follow their audits and get our AS9100 recert, whatever case, or CMMI, different kind of certs. We're showing that through the whole product life cycle. So yeah, it's I from the get-go, I was kind of, I understood it and was told this is really important. It's a shoulder to shoulder relationship. It's not a typical, vendor supplier relationship. I'm just going to buy this and I've got this purchase order and that looks fine, throw it over the fence. You're not going to get that, working with the contract manufacturer, especially for space, designed and manufactured hardware.
Yeah, Greg, I mean, this obviously was a huge spark to growth for Verigon. In our discovery call, you kind of talked through, some of that recent growth from a headcount perspective of going from 140 employees to 400 plus, you're opening up a new facility, expanded, you're going into new verticals. How, you're approaching it from a business development perspective, but like just operationally and from, the founding teams, like, was this on, from a vision perspective, how do you all respond when, something like this kind of starts to take shape? And, is it something that was already kind of in your all's mind in terms of, a roadmap, or, just curious on how you react to that type of growth? And, did it kind of lead you down some new areas that you weren't intentionally going for, but just kind of went with it because you're just kind of riding that wave?
That's a really good way of asking that question, because I could take it a couple different ways. But I guess what I would say is it highlights how important it is to start with, what do you want to be? And, our management team has many, many years in this industry at different places. We've been together here for about 10 years. And I think the one thing that we've always kind of the bedrock of the foundation of the company is mission critical systems is kind of where we're going to stay. You're not going to see us straying into, commercial applications. So, whether it's defense, oil and gas, space, are kind of the touch point there will be mission critical stuff. And around that mission critical piece is the understanding that your QMS system, your training, all of those things have to be, at the peak, because you may be moving into other verticals, but because we're going to stay in the mission critical area, we're not going to have different levels of employees, so to speak. We're not going to be building, class 2 on one line and class 3 on another line. So that makes it easier that we're looking for a certain kind of employee and a certain kind of capability. With the growth that we've had, it really starts to kind of stress how good is that training group? How good is that recruiter, that HR, because you can't put an ad in the paper and just say, I'm looking for people that have experience in surface mounts. So, J standard solderers, those kind of rework people, they become pretty, needle in a haystackish. And when you're trying to find a lot of them, it can be difficult. But I think that's kind of been our approach to as we've grown. The other thing is when we're vetting potential new customers, we kind of have a pretty rigorous vetting because of the fact of when you're doing business with these kind of companies, these potential customers, you have to be all in. There's not, a purchase order and you get 6 months to deliver and then you ship it and you're done. It's like the ECO activity, the customer interaction, the on-site from the Innoflights of the world and Innoflight's customers are on site. So some of the things that we're looking for in a potential customer in that world is, how detailed are their material requirements? What kind of end item data packages are they expecting? What kind of test are they expecting? Because though each one of those ads were like, okay, they're shortening their potential pool of who they're going to look at. And if they're looking for all of those things, we think we're as close to the center of the bullseye as you can get.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I'm curious on what like the communication loop looks like, Jeff, from your all's end over to Verigon's side, just to ensure, when you guys are talking through, what the deliverable is, you're not biting off more than you can chew because you don't know if they've got the workforce, the bandwidth, the capabilities to deliver at the volume that your customer is looking for. So what does that kind of loop look like?
Yeah, with Verigon, very trusted relationships. We don't get turnover. And if we do, there's, an introduction of somebody new and it comes from somebody like Greg or, people that we're working with almost on a day-to-day basis. And then that if they're pulled in, that they're trusted, they're up to speed on that process, they're trained. Like Greg was talking about, all the training requirements go behind that. So yeah, we have that. That's a really positive thing that if we were missing that, we would, you would start to get really concerned and be triple checking, quadruple checking things, and that drags things out when you're talking about the QMS side of a business and that whole process. So it's somebody on the line who is already up to speed. They're already trusted. They work with us. They come on site anytime we need them to, or just plan them on a regular basis so we can actually have face-to-face meetings. Our folks go on site as well. It's a pretty short distance to travel. So that helps. That really does. If they were right back in our backyard, be even greater. But the fact that it's a short distance, believe me, that's a big deal because, that there's something about the hands-on, being able to see what they do. They see what we do. That's all part of this, how we built the trust and the relationship, working shoulder to shoulder.
Nice.
I'm curious, Greg, on like you were talking about the sales cycle and looking for partners and stuff. How much like education is going back in the other direction, right? You said, oh, you're looking for these people that know what they want in terms of this, that, and the other thing. I'm curious, like similar to like, how much are you finding that you also have to educate the potential customers about your capabilities or what maybe they should be looking for or anything along those lines? Because I can imagine that if you're not used to working with a company like yours, that could be a big factor.
It can be. And I guess what I would say is we have to tread carefully in that world where, we're not the teacher, so to speak, officially. So you have to earn a certain level of respect and trust before you can start, adding those conversations. And we're well past that with Innoflight. I would say that, for all intents and purposes, and Jeff may have another perspective, but we are a department, if you will, within Innoflight. I mean, purchasing to purchasing, finance to finance, engineering to engineering, test to test. So there are sub meetings and sub conversations going on all day, virtually every day. And then we have a weekly, basically everybody that's involved in the program from both sides gets on the phone, and we go through a very detailed action item register of all things that are open. We have gotten to the point where, there's a lot of shorthand communication with respect to, okay, if you do this, it's going to do that. And they get it. And it's been great. I mean, it takes a few years to get to the point where everybody's talking as if they're coworkers, as opposed to I'm the customer or I'm the supplier. And I think we've kind of gotten past that point at this time.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what Greg said. That's very true. Spot on. Even looking at our org chart, though, these might be the same way, but if you look at our org chart, then you start to throw in the things that come from the outside, like a supplier or partner or whatever you want to describe. That wouldn't be a box for us. It's like, I just had a discussion with my CEO a couple of weeks ago about the org, and Verigon came in that discussion. How we structure our org, that it aligns with how important and how big Verigon is with respect to what we do here at Innoflight.
Yeah, it sounds like Verigon's the beer to your all's pizza, Jeff.
Well played.
I like how you put that, Greg. Is like you're a department within Innoflight. I think it's a really interesting way to kind of interpret, how deep and embedded that partnership has become over the years. I wanted to kind of touch on something around like the QA, kind of like the testing stuff that you had kind of mentioned, Greg, before we transition to like talking more about the security stuff. So maybe a question for both of you guys, but what does that QA process look like? How are you all both kind of, or are you all both kind of managing the quality testing and delivery just to make sure what's leaving, Verigon is truly, space ready? And then Jeff, I guess like on the receiving end, what are there any final QA steps that you all implement prior to, a finished kind of product that's being shipped to your customers?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's at the end of the day, it aligns with better quality. So their QMS, their quality management system, how they do quality is vital to us. And while we might be looking at more from the outside or as a result of something that happened that we need to take a deeper look at after we received it on our end in our quality process, it still leads to improvement. And so improvements on our side, improvements on their sides, all things to better quality. So it's a while we have the independence of having our own ratings and being held accountable to those, the fact that we both have those, we're both trusted, that aligns to ultimately a better quality product for our customers. That's how I look at it. And if you can work that expeditiously and efficiently, which goes back to your question you asked about how well do you communicate? That was a great question, because if we had that turnover, we felt like we were an arm's length or a phone call or who's this new, or I got to submit this ticket online before I'm going to hear something from Greg in, 3 days, it's going to drag out the process and ultimately lead to less efficiency.
Yeah. Greg, anything that you wanted to add on to that from like just like that kind of back and forth between on the testing?
I would just say if you think like kind of along a continuum, with 100% Innoflight on this side and 100% Verigon on this side. New products start out obviously 100% Verigon, or Innoflight owns them. And then they bring us in, we build board level product that gets tested, then it gets built up, and that at a higher level gets tested. And then as we start to accumulate knowledge, they start dropping test equipment and test people here. And then there's a witness / buy off before we are officially doing it ourselves. And so by the second round, third round, that continuum would be more like 80% Verigon and 20% Innoflight. And we're continually doing that with new products and existing products. And I think so from a test development standpoint, we've got our people that align with the Innoflight folks, and they have their own individual working relationships. But that process is almost invisible from a management level. It's almost invisible who's working on that specific action item on that specific test.
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to kind of touch a little bit on security here, Jeff. This was something that you wanted to make sure that we spent a little bit of time on before we wrap the main discussion. And so there's this growing risk to space assets. You kind of referenced a couple like signal jamming to supply chain exposure. Talk to me a little bit about what those growing risks look like in the industry. And then, talk to me a little bit about, you're passionate about. You can't just add these on, right? These aren't just like a bolt-on type of thing. They need to be built, with security in mind from the get-go. I'd love to hear a little bit of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, sure. It is across all fronts. The risks, the vulnerabilities on cyber are across all fronts in a design. So, centric to what Innoflight does, you mentioned it, right? You're right. Supply chain, right? We do software, we do hardware. Then we're connected into a remote system, right? And then that remote system in space, no humans can actually touch it. Good thing and bad thing, right? So you have to look at that across all fronts. And we actually do as a company, we do that for what we're providing to our customers in our solutions. So, and we don't look at it as, we've got this piece added on and you have that. So, you can feel much more relieved, or you're using our encryption. So you don't have to worry about anything else. The fact that we do encryption for the DoD, though, does give us that foundational element behind that front. It's commonly referred to the risk management framework, high assurance systems, and how you design, how you put in place the defense mechanisms and the ability to effectively harden your system. So we're at a company basis where, we started this a long time ago when we decided to build high assurance systems for the government, specifically, crypto, which is, it has the keys and it encrypts the data and you don't want anybody to break that. Right. So a lot of people don't understand what's behind that. And believe me, it was a lot to take on as a company. It's your systems. It's how you write software. It's how you do almost anything. It's how you buy your parts. It's where you buy your parts. It's funny how it's really not funny, but it kind of makes sense. We started so long ago, and now we're seeing this rise of cybersecurity. Now, I mean, really, cyber is like it's the next front of war. I mean, war defines cyber ground, right? So you think about space systems and how important they are in that aspect, in that realm. We're providing processors, we're providing the brains, the guts, the heart of a satellite. As soon as it's able to generate power, as soon as it can get power, it brings these systems on. So we fill a very vital role in that, in protecting space and cyber. We have the right background. And so we're incorporating that into all of our products. All our products have processors. I mentioned they're smart systems. And like I said, with Gragon, it goes to the supply chain as well. It wasn't like dumb luck that we picked a company that was focused on critical systems, trusted system, critical system, trusted system. There's synonymous relationship there. There's a lot that we know about their business that is important. While they may never touch the software that goes into it, which is extremely critical. And as you can imagine, in both cyber defense and the vulnerability front, it's from the hardware, the trusted element of putting it together. It's all about these touch points. I mean, even with a satellite, I told you there's a good thing that humans can't actually touch it. There's a good element of security to that. The bad element is the good guys can't touch it either. Just sit there and protect it, right? That's big on the supply chain. So it is really important with our our suppliers, both on the parts side and then of course in a partnership relationship like we have with Verigon. We consider that's a big touch point. So that exposes, goes back to some of the cyber threats that we have to take into consideration when we put a product in front of our customer and say, here's what we mean when we say this is cyber hardened. And not just, we flashed on that software, that latest and greatest software you heard about. And that's on there. Yeah, that can be a piece and have some element to it. But it's through the whole, it's across all fronts of a product, from supply chain, all intrinsic elements of the design, and not just how it functions at the software level.
Yeah. I appreciate you touching on that. I mean, it's a topic that is always kind of top of mind on our podcast, as we're, most of the folks that are joining are coming from critical infrastructure environments or verticals. If it's, manufacturing, refining rare earth metals to, working in healthcare, like if security is not kept at the forefront, then you've already kind of lost that war. It's going to happen at some point. So I appreciate you speaking up on that. Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put a bow on this, the main discussion here, and wrap up with a final segment that we call the 5-second scramble. So it's pretty simple. It's rapid fire Q&A. Give us your best answers. Try to keep it within 5 seconds. Mike, why don't you lead with Greg, and then I will close with Jeff.
Sounds great. All right, here we go, Greg. Explain Verigon to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
We are a mission critical contract manufacturer, and we can support from turnkey through full system level test of all electronic requirements.
What was something you found surprising about manufacturing components for use in space?
The long lead times, the length of time from when something is designed to when it goes into production, and how much of that stuff goes obsolete before it's actually ready to be purchased.
Oh, wow. What roles are you hiring for in the next 6 to 12 months?
I can't think of any that we're not.
Check out the website, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes.
Sounds good. What's your favorite part of the culture there?
We don't say no. By the time we vetted a customer, the only question is, do they understand what they're asking? If they understand what they're asking, we're going to figure out a way to make it happen.
Nice. Is there an emerging market or sector that you think is underrated?
I don't know of one that's specific to our mission critical needs. Basically, what we're trying to do is get deeper into the people who need that and just didn't know who Verigon was.
What was your first car?
My first start?
No, your first car. Sorry.
On my first car. My first car was a 1967 Ford Mustang.
Yeah.
Nice. That's the way to go. What was your childhood dream job?
I actually wanted to be a teacher and a baseball coach.
Oh, nice. What's the best golf course you've ever played?
I've actually played Cypress Point twice.
Oh, nice. Is there a charity or cause that's near and dear to you?
The March of Dimes was very big on our family because my uncle had polio back in the mid to late 40s, and the whole family at some point has raised money for the March of Dimes.
Oh, very nice. And last one, what's a surprising hobby of yours?
Probably cooking.
Your wife lets you get in there?
Limited. She loves when I clean, not so much when I cook.
Good stuff.
All right, good stuff. Jeff, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What is the most underrated challenge in building for space?
The most underrated challenge is, I would say, protection against cyber threats. It's just not a sexy area. And so it's an afterthought. And then when you're scrambling to actually try to do it. So that's why it becomes a big challenge. Once it is kind of, you realize that we have to implement it.
Nice. If Innoflight were an animal, what kind of animal would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to have to go with, cool. So I'm going to go with a dolphin. I think there's an element of the intelligence, and there's a beauty element to, I think, what we put together. And then, you're kind of always surprised to see them, even though you might see it all the time, right? And it's something new. And so that's the innovation side of it, I guess.
That's awesome. How would you describe the culture at Innoflight?
The culture is behind national security and the mission. When I founded the business, I came right, I spent 33 years in the service. I was in the reserves at the time, and I came out of active duty for small distance before that. But that's what driving our innovation in space, really aerospace, is addressing the national security threat. So that's a big part of who we are, and innovation behind that, though. So it's, I want people here always not be afraid of bringing new ideas and the what ifs to the front.
Yeah, well said. What kind of roles are you guys hiring for over the next 3, 6, 12 months?
We still have strong push. I say still have because it seems like we have them a lot, is software, embedded software. And now, it's a lot of our software is in the cybersecurity development, touching different pieces of where it needs to be written in terms of getting a system to do what it needs to do. So I'd say strongest area is software engineering, and then, electrical, computer engineering. Always looking for they complement the software, and a lot of times we find people that like to do both, and that's great too at this company. So
yeah, awesome. What's the most valuable trait in a manufacturing partner?
I would say it's the openness. And what comes with that is communications and trust. The trust you just build, but the openness is in the communications. They're who they are, and they're going to be who they are, but they're open about that. That's one thing that Verigon is very good at. It's not like they're trying to be someone just to get our business. It's who we are, but they're open about that, and that instills positive communications back and forth.
Nice. What's the first job you ever had?
Oh, geez. I worked for my grandfather who was on the board at a high school nearby, the public high school. I went to a parochial high school. And you helped the different schools get ready over the summer. So it was a summer job, get them ready. I was put on a tractor to cut some grass and I plowed through a window. Still never forget that. The window was put low in some of those areas back east. And I was also like I was scrubbing floors or sanding them. They're wooden floors. You sand them and then you shellac them with varnish. I don't know what I was exposed to, the fumes. I still remember it was like, I don't know why I was given that job, but there you go. That was
it sounds like it builds a good amount of character. Put it that way.
It
does. What's a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
Oh wow! I mean, I'm big on schools, especially schools that that aren't getting access to a lot of funding, trying to get by. I mean, you can almost say that of a lot of schools. So, STEM, like I like to see advancements in the STEM areas, especially in schools, high schools and colleges, but mostly high schools, especially ones that are struggling, and that are welcoming students from broader areas, diversification, because I think the diversification in schools is big too, and how any individual it grows as part of their community. So that's big on for me. And then underprivileged children too is an ability to reach out to them both hands-on and assist with any way I can.
Very nice. What is your favorite place to vacation with the family?
I'm going to have to go with Hawaii. I mean, we've been to a couple other places too, but something about it, it's always, I mean, nothing against going to foreign lands, but I like to be able to just have that relaxed state in the US, and Hawaii gives you that. It's a go-to. Been to, I think, all of the islands at least twice. That's
nice. Yeah, it's a good answer. Favorite pizza topping?
I wish I could answer this in a healthy way. Why don't I give you one unhealthy and one healthy? The unhealthy is a really good sausage. I mean, I'm picky about it too. So I'm like looking, if there are multiple sausages, then I like something different, not just a kind of a state of the art stuff. Maybe like a linguiça even or something like that.
Nice.
My healthy one is basil.
Nice. Oh yeah. Underrated topping, I think, on a pizza too.
Definitely.
Yeah. Last one. If you could establish the first fast food restaurant on Mars, what would it be?
Wow. I'm just thinking of everything that we would still need to do to establish anything that supports human life on Mars. So I've got nothing else to answer but that, except for you have to say McDonald's.
Well said. I thought for sure you're going to go with In-N-Out. The amount of times we get In-N-Out.
That's true. I guess.
And then it becomes, big debate, on the stage, because you got East Coasters that say Five Guys and you got the West Coast that says In-N-Out. But McDonald's, I think, well said. I think that is a fantastic answer.
My head was around how hard it would take to get there. And then, of course, if you were part of that and then you were welcoming the first fast food chain, I think McDonald's would be dumping a lot more money on your lap than In-N-Out. So
that stock price would be skyrocketing. Awesome. Well, that's a wrap, guys. I want to thank you both for joining us. Really enjoyed talking more about, kind of the future of what's taking place in space, but also securing, these systems and the hardware as well. And hearing a little bit more about this manufacturing partnership. I think it's one that a lot of listeners will dial into and pull something from, because we're seeing it across the board. It's a heavy push for this, right now, quickly. And so, thank you for sharing your story and how you all kind of came together. It's super helpful. And thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Mike. Good to see you, Greg.